Hi, thanks for watching. This video is going to cover Alabama's 2023 tax auctions. We have an early season preview before some of the lists have been officially released, and we're about a month out from the auction starting. So I'm going to consider this like a first look at the 2023 auction season. We're going to take a look at the counties that we can look at so far as properties, and we're going to use a tool called Parcel Fair to show you how to do some research and see what you're buying tax liens on or tax certificates depending on which county you're shopping in. So let's just get started and let's talk about, so when is the tax auction season in Alabama? Basically, these auctions run from April through early June. The first one starts, it'll be April 3rd. Shelby County and Conecuh County have the first two auctions on that same day. Oops, let me back up. So research for these auctions is going to start as early as January for the counties that release preliminary lists that we're going to go through some today. Those delinquent tax lists get circulated by the counties, and then those properties with delinquent taxes, they will be available on Parcel Fair as they become available to the public for viewing. So all that to say, some of the lists come out early, some of them show up closer to maybe 4 to 6 weeks before their auction happens. So where are these Alabama tax auctions held? As with many answers in this business, the answer is it depends. We still have some in-person auctions. These are auctions where you would go in person and buy tax certificates using the old system. There's a few counties still doing that. Like I said, Houston County, right now Montgomery hasn't announced on their website at least. Several counties that are just still going to do this old method, which most investors do prefer this because what you're doing is you're buying a tax certificate that would mature into a tax deed 3 years after the auction date. So that's the date that the certificate goes to auction, whether it sells or not, will become a tax deed in 3 years. This is using what's called an overbid auction method, which means you take the amount of taxes that are owed, that are delinquent, and then you bid over that additional money that you're trying to essentially win the auction bid by tying up more money in that bid. So what happens is basically if you were to buy the taxes, you're going to earn an 8% interest on the taxes plus 8% on that overbid. And you can keep adding thousands of dollars to this overbid and still get 8% interest until your bid hits 15% of the property's market value. So for simple numbers, if we took a house that is valued at $100,000 and let's say that $1,000 are owed in taxes, that will be the starting bid at the auction, $1,000. And let's say that you and someone else go back and forth and bid this thing up to $15,000, which remember, the value is $100,000, so 15% would be $15,000. You're still earning 8% interest if you win that bid on all $15,000. But every bid, every dollar that is tied up beyond 15% will receive zero interest. So effectively you're blending that interest rate down by bidding beyond 15% of the property's market value. So to extend that example, if you were to bid up to $30,000, you're now at 30% of the property's market value, meaning $15,000 of your $30,000 gets 8%. And the other $15,000 gets 0%. So you're effectively blending the interest rate down to 4% by doing that, because if you average that 8% over that, it cuts it in half to 4%. So switching gears, first, the unsold leftovers, they're sent to the Alabama Department of Revenue, and they're sold to the public over the counter through that system, which is a very high demand, very attractive way to buy those tax certificates and tax deeds, because you're buying them outside of an auction directly from the state. The other type of auction in Alabama right now, these are all going to be online auctions using a website called govease.com. And over half the counties in Alabama have moved to this new tax lien system that are all using govease.com as their auction location. The new tax liens are a 12% foreclosable tax lien after 3 years of liens are purchased. So you have to essentially buy up 3 years of liens, and then you can pursue a foreclosure at that point. These auctions, unlike the in-person, they use a bid down interest system. So that means exactly what it says. You're bidding down the interest. So I might place a bid at 12% and you might offer 11%, and then your friend says 10% and so forth, until we get to an interest rate that somebody's willing to live with. It could be 6%, it could be 0%. And that person wins the bid. And now they've bought a lien at 0% interest for some reason. This is beyond me. But some people will bid it down to 0%, I think, in just the long shot hope that they can take on 3 years of 0% liens just to foreclose on the property. So my little disclaimer, fair warning here, many properties will bid down to 0% interest. So if you're like me, you don't want any part of that. But if you're going to be using the Govies auctions, pick an interest rate to bid down to that you can live with and stick to it. I do not recommend, my personal advice is I do not recommend taking a super low interest rate just in a long shot prayer that you'll get the foreclosure after 3 years. It's just, like I said, it's a long shot. So let's switch gears, and now I'm going to throw us into a live demo of the system. And here we go. So this is parcelfair.com. And this is our homepage. You can see many states are featured here, but off the top, Alabama is our first one. It was literally our first state that we put in the system, and alphabetically, it's the first state too. So nice coincidence there. This is the page for Alabama. You can see this View Alabama auction calendar is probably the highlight of what you want to see here. So you'll see we've carved out the whole auction season from April through June. When the dates were available, we would go ahead and put the actual date on the auction. And so some of these are spot on the correct date. But I have to tell you, a lot of these we've had to use previous years to know that certain counties will have their auction on the second Wednesday in May. And so we go look up the second Wednesday in May and figure the date out even before the county has announced their date. So that's why at the very top of this page we have this yellow looking note. The auction dates are subject to change. Even after they are announced, the auction dates sometimes will show up on a public announcement and still change. So we do a lot of work for you to try to track those dates and keep them as up to date as possible, the moving targets there, so you don't have to do that. But it is, don't get stuck on a date. Sometimes they move. So let's take a look at what happens if we view the properties right here in Shelby County. So I mentioned earlier we have preview lists, then we have actual lists. This one is an actual list that has been published. Shelby County in Alabama is just south of Birmingham here. It will be happening on April 3rd on the GovEase website. So let's just take a look and zoom in and see what's in here. This is Highway 280 is kind of a well-known area here in Inverness. We can take a look at the properties that are available. You'll see some of these are undeveloped, sort of vacant lot looking things those could have a lot of appeal. If you take a peek at one, you can see the valuation on this is $85,000. It's 0.45 acres. Let's just take a look at some more. The map view here is great for taking a peek and not getting too deep in these. There's units in this apartment complex that we could find interesting. This caught my eye. This is some type of commercial building. The Red Mountain Bank is actually looks like they've not paid their taxes. So the total value on that property is $3.8 million. So that would be a big tax lien to hold. That's probably a good chance for me to stress that these lists will shrink between now and the auction. So again, we're a little less than a month out from the Shelby auction. So I expect hundreds of properties to fall off the list between now and then. So don't get too attached. You may find some things, especially if you're local and are familiar with certain areas, you can get attached to properties. You might just see a pretty house like this and get attached to it just because it's nice. But the chances are this, $4.8 million house, it's a great chance it will redeem before the auction, or they just pay their taxes before the auction. Really is what happens. So we'll skip over the mountain. We're heading into the country. Here's another giant mansion that I've seen this several years consecutive now. Go to auction. 27 acres, $7 million valuation. Just massive property. again, even if it goes to the auction, it will probably redeem pretty quickly when the owner decides to pay their taxes. So if you're the type of person looking for large tracts of vacant land, you can sort of eyeball things like this, where you have undeveloped land on a ridge. So this one in particular is 80 acres next door to a 41 acre property, which is next door to a 19 acre property. So again, big land are something you could look for if you like large acreage. Moving along, so again, Shelby County is very large. I'm going to use this, I clicked on markers and overlays on the right so I can draw the county borders and show you where we're looking at. So Shelby County is this area with the yellow properties. If you want to get a contrast view and see these properties on a different background than just the satellite image, you can click map in the top left, and that puts it on sort of a white background, easier to spot if you're just trying to sort of fish through properties and eyeball things. That could be more appealing, just easier on the eye. And then once you find something that catches your attention, like I don't know, some of this large property in the Hoover area, you can flip back over to satellite and get a look at the tree lines, the rooftops if there's rooftops available. So you notice some of these looks like they have houses there. So this is a way to kind of skim over the auction and get an idea, especially if you know an area you like. If it's Calera or maybe down in Columbiana, you want to take a look. So another thing that we're looking at that probably bears some explanation here. So far, I've only shown you these yellow properties that I've been clicking on with the yellow outline. But every once in a while, you'll come across these properties in a blue outline. That's actually a tax deed. And as I mentioned earlier, that would be available through the Alabama Department of Revenue. It's a leftover from the 2010 tax auction. It's actually still there, 1.5 acres in Columbiana, it looks like. So if we click on this full details, we actually see the report for this property. And we can kind of get an idea for valuations and assessment classes, legal descriptions. There are links to the county sources if you want to look at different, if you want to research the land or the sales info. But most importantly, you have this green button, Apply Online, the Alabama Department of Revenue, which opens up instructions that tell you exactly how to go apply for this property at the Alabama Department of Revenue. So this video is about auctions, so I'll stop there and go back to the auction properties. When you're looking at an auction property, take this tract of land here, for instance. Let's see if it has a good report. Yes, so this should be okay. We're looking at just under an acre. It has actually has land and structures. It's not just acreage this time. Total valuation is $92,000, and from the street view image, I can see a house off in the distance. There's one tax lien available from 2023. It's $1,200 is the amount. And if you want to find out more information about buying this tax lien, the purchase options box here, it doesn't show you what I showed you a minute ago, which was the Alabama Department of Revenue. It's going to show you the Shelby tax sale, which when you click on that would direct you here to govies.com. It shows you April 3rd at 10 a.m. And you can call Shelby County for more info here. But there's a link to register for the tax sale with Govies. We'll follow that and take a look. Looks like you're going to need to sign up there for the registration. You can see the tax sale information here. There's actually a little PDF from the county, and then the auction list. Right now, it's available here from the county. It's a little bit different. I'm not sure the county's updated their list here because the Govies list has taken precedence now. But ultimately, you'd be looking at Govies where that registration took us a second ago if you wanted to bid on this property. So that gives you a quick idea of how to look at that property in particular. Let's jump to another property, and this is also, that's Walker County. I have another Shelby County property to look at. Yeah, so I found a Burger King. That was odd. And it's occupied, so it's still it's still receiving mail. But this interesting, this is going to be commercially developed building. The valuation is $857,000 with $10,000 owed in taxes. So if you could get a decent interest rate on this, that would be nice to tie up $10,000 at 12%. But Again, in this current tax lien system and the way bidders are behaving, I would expect this to bid down to a pretty low interest rate. Just looking over that, you can see the satellite view. I didn't mention this earlier. If you want to see the area, there's a panorama view button that we can click. And now we're in Google's lovely Street View system, which is taking a while to load. But you can actually, I think the Google car actually stopped at Burger King because the camera is from the parking lot. We're not on the highway. So clearly they're, Google's buying burgers here still, so they're making money. But this gives us a great look at the property, so you can have a fairly recent view of what's going on there. So that's Shelby County in a nutshell for you. Let's quickly jump over to Walker County and take a look. There's almost a couple thousand properties available in Walker County, which is it's just northwest of Birmingham. It contains Jasper, amongst other cities. It's sort of on the edge here. Again, Jefferson County ends right here where the mouse is, and that's where Walker begins. So one thing in Walker County, you're looking at similar to Shelby, some nice large acreage. There's 200 acres here. And if I wanted to get specific and say, you know what, I just want to filter in and hone in on large acreage only. If I go to my search filters, I can, amongst other things, I can go to this acreage and say minimum acreage of 10 acres. And I'm going to leave the max acres open. I don't care. You could have 1 million acres and I still want to see it. So I'm filtering anything greater than 10 acres, and I'm going to run my search again in Walker County. So there's still 119 properties over 10 acres, which is a nice size property to look at. But what I just did there was I ruled out 90-something% of the properties in the auction just to focus on this, if that's my strategy, is decent size acreage with decent value. Let's say furthermore, I wanted to make sure the valuation is at least let's say $100,000, which is probably going to be most of these properties anyways. Oh, no, it ruled some out. So now I'm looking at minimum 10 acres with a minimum value of $100,000. So now I've taken it down to 35 properties. So if I was working on the auction for GovEase to buy these properties, I would use their online bidding system for these 35 properties and set my bid on these and put my interest rate at 8%, 6%, whatever I'm willing to live with, and spread my money around. Maybe I'd win a few bids, who knows. But at that point, if someone's willing to go below the interest rate I'm willing to go below, then they can have it. I'm not going to go below whatever that interest rate is, and definitely not going to do any 0% bids. So yeah, that's an idea of how you would look for vacant land. Let's flip that and say I want to look at houses. So I'm going to just take the acreage filter off. I'm going to leave my 100,000 valuation on, and I'm going to go to improvements here and take a look at buildings and improvements. And let's just take a look at what that does. So, hey, we've still got 200 properties to take a look at. Here on the map, I can see quite a few commercial properties in town. Some residential ones that are off the beaten path a little bit. There's a nice rooftop right here. I can even take a look on the right-hand panel at these previews and get an idea. Like this house looks nice here. This white house. Let's go take a closer look at it. And so now I've got a street view of the property. I have a satellite view. I'm looking at the valuations, the address. I can see, click on how to buy from the Walker tax sale, which is going to be govease.com as well. And I can even click this panorama view button. And like I showed you earlier, take a look at this nice, beautiful neighborhood here where the house is sitting. So again, I'm showing you this nice neighborhood, nice house, but I will stress again, don't get attached. Find properties that by the numbers fit your threshold, that fit your strategy, whether it's interest rate or acreage or valuation. But don't get attached to anything, because that house might have its taxes paid before the auction, and even after the auction it could redeem quickly. So treat it like an investment, not a pet. You don't want to get emotional about these things. So hopefully that was a good overview for you. Again, you can take a look at the auction calendar. There's other counties that with the view properties that are ready for you to look at now. A lot of these will be turning green in the coming days as more lists are released. And again, some of these dates will move. It's about to get really interesting in the coming months, so buckle up. And if this is your first time doing auctions, I wish you good luck. I hope your strategy works out, and at the very least that you come out with some knowledge for the next auction, whether that's Alabama or wherever you're investing. So again, good luck, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks.